the spotlight once again on our Rat Pack, and the focus tonight, Iran and President Obama's video message sent to that country. Take a listen.
The United States wants the Islamic Republic of Iran to take its rightful place in the community of nations. You have that right, but it comes with real responsibilities. And that place cannot be reached through terror or arms, but rather through peaceful actions that demonstrate the true greatness of the Iranian people and civilization. And the measure of that greatness is not the capacity to destroy. It is your demonstrated ability to build and create.
Now, whether or not that message will have the desired result of slowing the nuclear arms race in Iran and their support of international terrorism, we don't yet know. Let's ask Alireza Jafarzadeh. He is a Fox News foreign affairs analyst and the author of The Iran Threat, and Ambassador John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. There is Jafarzadeh's book, The Iran Threat. And Ambassador Bolton joins us now on the phone from Utah. Ambassador, I want to go to you first, if I may. During the Cold War, Ronald Reagan used to address himself, whenever he talked to Russia, the Soviet Union, he addressed himself to the people of Russia. He'd try to differentiate the people from the leaders and drive a wedge, if you will, between the two. In this case, President Obama mentioned the leaders of Iran. Isn't that a strategic mistake?
Well, I think the whole message was a form of pandering, and I think the Iranian leadership will see it as a sign of weakness because what he's trying to do is ingratiate himself with the Iranian leaders. But make no mistake, he will get direct face-to-face negotiations with Iran because it's in their interest to have it. It buys them more time for their nuclear program. It gives them legitimacy, and it sends a signal that they're now bargaining as an equal with the United States.
Well, Alireza, is there any way that the Iranian people can be spoken to directly by the president? Is there any way he can leapfrog over the leaders, who we all know are corrupted to the core, right to the Iranian people to try to separate the two?
Well, certainly there is a way, and there must be a way to separate between the two, because there's a huge difference between the people of Iran on one side and the repressive rulers, the Ayatollahs, on the other side. You can't actually go to the streets of Tehran and other cities and start talking to people there. However, you can talk to their representatives, the Iranian opposition who are present outside of Iran. There's a sizable organized opposition based both in Iraq and in Europe. And that approach can be taken as a sign of goodwill towards the people of Iran.
Well, Ambassador, it might be an imperfect comparison, but still, I'm trying to think of the times during the Soviet Union when Ronald Reagan did try to address himself directly to the people. I refer to the ambassador in this question, and he actually several times when he went to Russia, met with dissident leaders, got them together. Of course, the Soviet leaders were furious when he did this. But is there any way that a president of the United States could do the same thing?
Oh, absolutely. I think your other guest just mentioned one way. I would give much more support both openly and clandestinely to Iranian opposition groups. I think the mullahs are very, very weak. I think there's enormous economic dissatisfaction. I think the young people of Iran know they could have a different life. They're educated, sophisticated. But when you empower the leaders, in effect, you're legitimizing them, you're strengthening them, you're making it harder for the opposition groups to make their opinions felt.
Well, Alireza, who should the United States be funding in Iran? Is there, in the case of Nicaragua, for example, you had the Contras. In the case of Poland during the Soviet era, you had the unions, Lech Walesa. Are there institutions like that within Iran that the United States should be funneling money to?
Well, I don't think the United States really need to funnel money. They're way behind that. I think the first step is to open up relations and reach out politically to the organized opposition. You mentioned who those people could be. The one organization that Tehran recognizes as the opposition, is afraid of the more than any other opposition group, is the Mujahideen Khalq, or the MEK, headed by also the whole movement is headed by a woman who's headquartered in Paris.
Now, were you ever affiliated with this group, Alireza?
Yes, I was the U.S. representative office of the movement in the United States until 2003. However, the State Department has had this policy of reaching out to the Iranian regime to the cost of labeling the main opposition as terrorists and putting them on the State Department terrorist list. Now, the same opposition group has now been delisted in Europe and the United Kingdom. There is a great effort on the part of members of Congress who are saying, as Ambassador Bolton said, that we need to reach out and empower the Iranian opposition rather than tying their hands by putting them on the terrorist list. So that whole policy needs to be reversed.
All right. Well, Ambassador Bolton, I'm kind of a simple guy in the way I view the world, and I think that business, there is one thing that sort of unites the whole world, and that's business sense. Common sense that grows out of doing business with somebody from a different culture. I'm sure Alireza will testify to this, but the Iranian entrepreneur, the Iranian businessman, had a legend for being extraordinarily talented and able to deal with different cultures in the past before the mullahs came into Iran. Is there any way we could sort of try to energize the business community with Iran through doing something?
Well, I think there's a lot of dissatisfaction within the Iranian business community. They see what the Ayatollahs have done to the economy over 30 years of mismanagement. I think that, and combined with labor unions where there's enormous dissatisfaction, that's why I think this regime in Tehran is actually a lot weaker than people think. And this pandering kind of appeal by the president allows Ahmadinejad, the mullahs, the Revolutionary Guards Corps to say, look, our policies are working. The United States is beginning to make concessions, even in the form of this video. This is not a time to let up on the hardline policy we've been pursuing.
Well, Alireza, I'm sure you would agree with that, but is there a solidified business community in Iran to which the president could reach out extending an olive branch, but really trying to get something done?
I think the best way that the president can do in order to help the business community is to show the people of Iran that the repressive rulers of Tehran are not supported, are not endorsed, that they're not going to be reached out to, and by imposing sanctions on the Iranian regime, try to open up opportunity for the nationalist business people.
But how do you do that, Alireza? That seems like a contradiction. On the one hand, tightening restrictions on trade, on the other hand, opening up. How do you do that?
No, there's no contradiction because the regime basically controls much of the lifeblood of the economy of the country. So if you really need to open up to the business opportunities in Iran, you need to settle the course with the regime. You need to put pressure on the Iranian regime. We need to see change, democratic change in Iran, before we're going to talk about the economic progress and flourishment in the country.
All right. Of course, we did open up with China, and it helped there, but maybe the situation's different. John Bolton, Alireza Jafarzadeh, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.